Welcome to the SmartTechCheck podcast, hosted by Mark Vina, your home for candid, insightful, and provocative conversations about the smart home automation, security, smartphones, PC and console gaming, and much more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Vina, host of the SmartTechCheck podcast. Today is Tuesday, June 27, 2023. Data analytics plays a crucial role in acquiring broadband subscribers by providing valuable insights into customer behavior and preferences. By analyzing data, service providers can identify patterns and trends, allowing them to tailor their marketing strategies to target specific demographics effectively. Additionally, data analytics enable companies to optimize pricing plans, service offerings, and customer support, enhancing the overall subscriber experience. Furthermore, data-driven decision-making helps in identifying areas of improvement, allowing providers to proactively address issues and enhance their network infrastructure to meet customer demands. To discuss this crucial topic in the broadband service provider space, I'm joined by Jonathan Restivo, Chief Development Officer at Cityside Fiber, and Gabe Peterson and Quanda Hunter, Senior Marketing Leaders at Calix. Jonathan, Gabe, and Quanda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
This is really an important topic. You know, when people hear data, they sometimes they get a little squirrely because it's numbers. But data is such an important topic, and I'm really looking forward to getting to this podcast and the meat of it. But before we do that, let's just go around the horn. And JR, I'll let you kind of talk a little bit for about a minute or so about what you do and your role at Cityside Fiber.
Yep. Thanks, Mark. And good to see you, Gabe and Quanda. Yeah, Jonathan Restivo, go by JR. One of the co-founders here at Cityside Fiber, an Orange County-based infrastructure developer and service provider. We launched the company about 2 years ago. And during that time, my role has kind of been, a little bit of everything, as a startup experience goes. But right now focused on launching our ISP and services to the communities. We just recently started construction in Tustin, actually a little over a month ago. Tustin, California, our first market. And we plan to launch the network in the next 4 to 5 weeks as well. So all of my focus right now is on, kind of all of the operations that go into the ISP side, which includes sales and marketing, as well as customer experience and field operations and kind of the whole gamut. So we have a team within the marketing and within the sales functions that rolls up to me and is the subject of our conversation today. So happy to dig in on that. We are new, so a lot of our experience is relatively, I wouldn't say limited, but smaller sample size, I should say. But in working with Calix, what we've been able to do is start to create some setups and some systems to help launch into the market with as much the best setup and the best understanding of that space that we can. And so I think this will be a great conversation to dig into that.
Well, new is good, JR. New is good. So let's flip this over to Quanda.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So Quanda Hunter, I've been at Calix it's coming on 5 years now. And so I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager here, and the area of focus for me at Calix is our product called Calix Marketing Cloud, which is a cloud-based solution that, to your point, data is so important in people's business. And so that's why I love what I do with Calix Marketing Cloud, because it's really helping companies like Cityside and all the other broadband service providers we've worked with really start and build their business using insights that can really help to drive those decisions. And so a great space to be in, and happy to talk today. Excited.
No, it's going to be a great podcast. Gabe?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Happy to be here as well. My name is Gabe Peterson. I'm the field strategy lead here at Calix for our Calix Marketing Cloud solution. So I am the sales side of Quanda's marketing hat there. So we work very closely together with our customers. I've been at Calix for a long time, a little over 18 years actually, doing various things over that time. But most recently worked in our customer success organization before moving into my current role. So I was working with our customers who are actually using the Marketing Cloud solution every day and helping them execute campaigns, really take that data and insight that they had and put it into action. So I'm very, very passionate about that and helping broadband service providers succeed and drive their business forward using the insight and data that they have in their business. So very excited to be talking about all this today.
Well, that's great. Well, let's jump into the thick of things here. And by the way, BSP, for those watching the podcast, stands for Broadband Service Provider, just so I define what the terms are so people are not confused. But let's talk a little bit about Quanda, kind of the growth strategies that you've kind of identified that really appeal to a broadband service provider and the impact these strategies can have. So I'll flip it over to you.
Yeah, well, first, let me just give some background. So we did last year in 2022, we did a report study partnering with Heavy Reading, so Calix and Heavy Reading. We kind of published this and we did a comprehensive report. It was a survey and some interview-based questions to a mix. We had about 34% were C-levels who responded, 28% vice presidents, general managers represented about 21%, and or directors 18%. And this the study was split between Canada and the US. So 85% was US based, 15% Canadian. So just wanted to give some perspective on where this information came from, because I think that is important in how you also, since we're talking about data, how you get the data. And so we talked to these service providers at these various high-level roles to kind of get their perspective on what approaches they were taking to drive their business. What were those strategies they were looking at? And when I see this spread here, it's not at all surprising to me. We look, if I start from the left side with the 34% increase in their market share, to me, this just kind of makes a lot of sense. I'll just say the broadband space is an incredible industry to be in, right? It's lots of opportunity here. You have more subscribers, are more reliant on Wi-Fi than ever before. So it represents a lot of areas of growth for service providers. And that's why I'm happy that we're here with JR from Cityside, right? They represent that excited opportunity for new companies looking to build their network. So when I see this 34%, again, it just makes a lot of sense. We also know that the broadband industry is very competitive. So many want to increase their market share. And one of the things, it's not mentioned here, but I'll talk to it. When we did ask them, like, how would you rank your threats, right? 34% said it's tier 1 fixed service providers. 31% came out of similar size adjacent wireline service providers. And then the last bucket was, they felt the third was the web scale companies they're competing with. So it was kind of like an even split. But we know it's always been a volatile industry, but now that you have to layer in, service providers also have to compete with like big box stores, big brands. And so again, they're eager to go after and increase their share. One more layer into this is all of the vast amount of funding that's coming into the broadband industry. For instance, the FCC invested billions of dollars, I believe, when I last year, about $14 billion in its Affordable Connectivity Program, also known as ACP. And that is a benefit to ensure that households can afford the broadband they need. So you have the government that is, providing funding opportunities for service providers to go out and compete and to attract and to provide service to all of the homes that desperately need it, right? More people are working from home, school from home, etc. So seeing this number, 34%, was definitely, in line of what I thought before seeing the results, followed by the 28%. Again, funding, all of this funding coming into a lot of broadband providers are wanting to expand into new regions. They have the opportunity to do so. They have subscribers that want more connectivity. They want to bring it to their rural communities. And so want to go out and expand the network. And like I said to start, this is a great space to be in, a great industry with a lot of opportunity. So some quick stats I had looked up. Wi-Fi usage has a 93% penetration rate in North America, a 63% penetration rate globally. Then you layer that in with the average home has about 20 connected devices. And by 2030, actually, 29 billion IoT devices is expected to be connected to the network. So a lot, a lot.
I know there's a lot going on here. Gabe, let me pull you into this. Any observation of the data that's being shown on the slide?
It seems like every customer conversation I have, when we ask them about their goals and their plans, the first thing that comes out of people's mouth is, I want to grow my subscriber base. And that is the number one goal when we talk to leaders and organizations that they're focused on. Obviously, I think that's incredibly important, and JR can speak to this, but there's specific thresholds that you need to get to, take rate thresholds that you need to get to in order to make the business case work, in order for these investments to make financial sense. But I do think there is oftentimes so much focus on the take rate that we don't necessarily focus on the quality or the value of the customer that we're speaking to as well and trying to bring in. And I personally think there should be a lot more focus on customer lifetime value, and that's why one of the reasons I really like JR's story and what they're doing at Cityside is they're focused on the right subscribers and using data to drive the right subscribers into their business, not just somebody who's looking for the best deal or looking for a super low entry level price. Those are the folks that are frankly probably going to be more costly in the long run because they're going to create more problems than they actually solve.
Yeah. So Jonathan, let me just pull you in here before we hit the next slide here. As the representative BSP on the on the podcast, and recognizing, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later in the podcast, that BSPs really cannot just solely focus on broadband speed. It's kind of like table stakes. Everybody's got faster and faster speeds. You got to differentiate yourself with other services. Is there any single thing on this slide that kind of jumps out at you?
Well, for us as a new provider, it's a little bit of everything right here, right? So we want to increase our market share. We're expanding in a new region, and we want to diversify. But no, I mean, kind of across the board, though, to Gabe's point and to your point just then, Mark, speed is that's where you start, right? That's a given. And so for us, the focus is on the experience aspect, and so even if for instance, like our main competitors are the cable companies right now. And in our territory, that's mostly Cox and some Spectrum. And so, they can slap a sticker on their product and call it a gig product. But in reality, we know that's not the case. But at some point, we kind of have to assume that the market's going to get there. The technology is going to get there. And so for us, it is on a lifetime value aspect where, if we've created a cut before they catch up or make changes, and even if they don't, we want to focus on that customer experience and prevent churn, keep customer satisfaction high, create subscriber growth through word of mouth, and other types of promotions like that. So for us, we aren't looking for that value shopper. We do have, we will, once we go through the process, have the ACP product available, but we aren't looking for the value shopper type of customer. We start our service right at a gig. That's the lowest product that you can get, because we want to establish that this isn't typical internet, right? This is better. The experience is better. The product is better. Everything about it is different, and it's not what you're used to. And if we can brand that way, we'll be able to come into a market as someone that's completely different and someone that will get heads turning. There will be those value shoppers that say, well, what's the cost? Well, this one's cheaper, so I'm just going to go with this. And those are the customers that unfortunately we're probably not going to get. And even if we were to get, they're probably going to get their head turned once the competitor comes in with some kind of ridiculous deal and locks them up for 3 years with, low pricing or something, and then jerks them around or whatever the case may be, right? We don't want to get into those games, and we don't want to get into a race to the bottom. For us, it's about establishing a high quality brand that people like to work with, and so from that aspect, yeah, it's a little bit of everything in terms of what our approach. But at the end of the day, we're not going to we don't want to get in the mud, I guess, in some respects, and kind of race to the bottom. And so, by focusing on the high value experience and the high value product, our hope is that, that sticks.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this whole sense of prioritizing the service aspect of this. I think we've already kind of addressed this in some ways, but Gabe, talk a little bit about how, BSPs are really getting religion in terms of, hey, services are the name of the game to create that stickiness, to create that long-term value proposition. So let's talk about this quickly.
Yeah, so I think you're spot on there, Mark. I think a lot of the smart broadband service providers, like the folks at Cityside, and a lot of the broadband service providers that we work with at Calix, are starting to get religion, so to speak. That's a good way to put it, right? And understanding that managed services, these high value managed services, are going to create that stickiness with the customer. And we actually have data to prove this. We've seen this with our customers who are rolling these out, where there's a direct decrease in churn as you start to add on these managed services. Right. You tack on one, the churn goes down by, whatever, call it 1/10 of a point, or, a 1/4 of a point. And then you tack on another one and it goes down again. And those may not seem like big decreases when you're talking about, monthly churn, but a 1/4 point decrease in churn may result in 2 to 3 extra years of lifetime that customer is spending with you. So, these small incremental changes that you can make from a churn perspective have substantial increases in the financial viability of a broadband business when you're talking about customers sticking around for 7, 8, 9 years versus 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, and Quanda, what's really interesting about this particular slide, a lot of the services that are listed below here, we're not going to go through all of them, obviously, but my big one is managed Wi-Fi. The reality is that the average homeowner does not want to be their own CIO. The technology is changing too quickly. They really want help. Now, there are folks like myself, and there are folks like all three of you probably, that, hey, you get a kick on spending the weekend upgrading your router. That's really not, the experience with the average homeowner. They really want plug and play. They want to have a trusted entity like a BSP who can help them, navigate through these services without a lot of churn themselves. When Wi-Fi technology gets upgraded, we've had 6, now we're going to Wi-Fi 6E. Now here comes Wi-Fi 7. So just for about a minute, give us your perspective on that part of the conversation. And hey, I don't want to be a CIO.
Well, I think all of us can relate to this. People want to do more of what matters most, right? If you have a family or children, you want to spend more time with them. If you have a hobby, if you don't have those things, but you have a hobby, you're a writer, you want to spend more time doing that, less time trying to figure out how to get all of these things in your house to work properly. So I'll speak from a personal experience, having 3 children under the age of 10. It's great when my service provider can also provide me a service such as like advanced parental controls or things to kind of help to keep my network secure, so that I know that while I'm right now on a podcast, if my kids are home for the summertime, they're restricted on some of the things they can access, or I have those controls in place. So I get a notification that, hey, your child is having a text that's might be something you want to check out. And so when you have your service provider that can be able to offer additional services, it really puts you in a position where you are more loyal to that brand and you have a relationship with your provider, right? I mean, Wi-Fi is that additional home utility. It's just as important as having your lights on in the household. And so if you can go to your service provider and they can make things that much more easier for you, you're likely to stay with them and you're going to appreciate that. And it's not just, I'm going to leave because this other one has faster speeds. But no, my service provider also has speeds, but they're also providing me with those extra things that makes my life just that more easier. And I think that's an important piece that we have to keep in perspective.
JR, your perspective?
Yeah, just real quick on this. I think one of the things that's interesting for us, and probably one of the challenges, is that most people at this point are used to, from their service provider, a bundle that exists with internet service and cable TV, and that's kind of it. And so what we're trying to frame, and that is the TV question, the over the top streaming aspect is something that we need to address and make sure that we're accounting for. But there are also a large number, looking at this slide, there's a ton of different services that can kind of be attached to that as well. So that all of that kind of comes into one central hub, right? Where there's one provider that's giving you all of these aspects. There, the bundle started for a reason, and part of that was cost, and the other part of that was just ease of use, right? And so as that environment shifts and as home internet shifts, capabilities into the future, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're accounting for is all these different managed service type aspects that make a home smarter, that make people's lives easier, and go beyond just traditional, channel up, channel down.
Right.
Yeah. This whole bundle discussion, I think, is fascinating. And just really quick, and I can't remember his name. There's a cable executive that said this probably a decade ago. There's two ways to make money in this business: bundling and unbundling. And we've been in the unbundling phase for a long time now in this business. The triple play was kind of the classic thing that we all saw in the 2010s, right? And we've been in this a la carte unbundling play kind of over the last 10 years. I think we're actually going to flip back the other direction now, where we are going to start to see a lot of these services that JR, you were talking about, right? And we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes, bundled back in to make it easy. Your point was super valid, making it easy for the customer to buy, but still providing a lot of value around that service that you're delivering to them. So that's my view. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think we're going to be back in the bundling phase.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Anyway, my only 2 cents would be that, the technology landscape changes all the time. You've now got, I can't do a podcast without mentioning them. Apple will have Vision Pro. Vision Pro is going to, I think, it's going to be a big deal. I won't get into a long discussion about it, but that will have an impact, I think, on the internet infrastructure you have at home, because that's going to require faster speeds. There'll be some managed service capabilities with that as well over time. So that's going to add kind of a bit of a curveball into the mix.
I think, Mark, what it represents is what my bundle is going to be different from your bundle, which is going to be different from Gabe's bundle. And it's all about that personalization, right? Like for the gamer, what bundle package they have versus the work from home or someone who has children in a household is very different. And I think, to Gabe's point, we're going back to that bundle. If we're going back there, it's going to have to come with some personalization, because nowadays everyone wants a service that really is customized for their home lifestyle. And I think that's the key point.
Well, and that's a great segue into this slide in terms of, which is, you're very, very good at this, Quanda. So, I mean, the reality is that this is now teeing up this whole idea that a targeted message, and this has been true that since the first advertisement ever showed up, is that a targeted message is much more impactful. So give me 30 seconds on this, Quanda, and then we'll flip it over to Jonathan and then Gabe.
Well, let me give you some quick steps. The average consumer has about 1,600 unread emails. When they hear information, people are likely to remember 10% of what they hear or see. However, if you pair that with a relevant image, when I say relevant, something that they can personally connect with or identify with, or it speaks to them in some capacity, that 10% goes to 65% retainment, right? And so what that tells me, and we all know this, right? When you get customized messaging, it matters. And if you are a service provider and you're marketing to your customer in a way where they feel like you know them, they're more likely to respond. So, and I'll just throw this out before I turn it over. When I started getting emails in my 20s from AARP, I never opened it. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm 20. Why would I need an AARP, right? Now, if and no offense to any age, if I'm 75 or something, I'm going to open that because, this is for me. And so it matters when you target people. It matters when you talk to them and you resonate. If people don't want you just going information over the fence, we have too many emails, too many work meetings, too many Zooms. It's a lot going on. We have a lot to consume. And so when you can customize your message and your marketing, you're going to be more effective. And that's just I think that's table stakes.
So Gabe, I know you like to read AARP emails that flood your inbox, even though you look like you're 25 years old. But I violently agree with Kwanda. I mean, targeting, creates. I mean, it's all kinds of benefits that come in with that. But give me your quick perspective.
Yeah, I certainly agree with everything Kwanda said. Right, targeting, allows you to do that, and it allows you to. I'm a big fan of jobs to be done marketing, where you're thinking about the job that you're actually trying to solve for the customer versus just the product or service that I'm trying to sell to you. And by having insight about your customers or about your prospects, you can actually speak to them about the job that you're trying to solve. And you can speak to the benefit that you're trying to deliver instead of just, I'm trying to sell you this specific thing. I'm not selling you 1 gig service. I'm selling you harmonious household because everybody in your house is going to have all the connectivity that they need, right? I can sell the outcome, but I need to know some information about you in order to sell that outcome.
Right. Now, Jonathan, because this is where data starts to kick in. You can't do targeted messaging unless you have really good data, which is where the marketing cloud solution comes into play. But give us your quick perspective on this, because again, you're the entity that has to act and create those targeted messages. So I'd like to get your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, the noise aspect, there's a lot of noise out there, right? And so trying to filter through that is one of the big challenges, especially as a new brand that, hasn't existed before, trying to establish ourselves. Before we can even sell the product, we have to kind of sell ourselves and put our name out there a little bit. And so that's another aspect of that's incredibly challenging, because now we're not even necessarily trying to convert, right? There's the call to action is incredibly minimal. It's just a matter of just trying to create brand awareness. And so for us, making sure that we're not wasting resources on marketing that is too early prior to us going into a market, that's spent on, for instance, like multifamily users that we are not in yet. We have to go through HOAs, right? Things that require an additional sales cycle. So there's a lot of paths being created on our side, and it's an extreme challenge for us, but it's exciting to be able to we have to target very specifically by zip code, by profile type, and what's going to kind of catch the eye through that noise, just to get our name out there, and then we can start to do the sales aspect, which is a whole other layer of a data and a different call to action. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, and again, data is the name of the game here, because a lot of these things we've talked about, you really can't get to. And can you, I always like to look backwards sometimes. Can you imagine trying to accomplish, Jonathan, a lot of the things you're doing today if you didn't have data? If you didn't have some of the tools you have today, if you didn't have access to this wonderful tool called the Calix Marketing Cloud. Shameless plug. But the reality is with that kind of data helps you make informed decisions. Now, at the end of the day, data can sometimes get distorted a bit. So you do have to put a marketing hat on and kind of apply judgment to it. But Gabe, let me just start with you in terms of just the data portion of this. We'll get into the marketing cloud component in a second, but let me just start with you and get your perspective.
Well, there's so much waste if there isn't information and insight, right? And I was thinking about this morning, I had a Teams chat with a colleague of mine who showed me 7 direct mail postcards that he got from a large national cable provider. He left them recently for a local fiber provider, and they're now trying to get him back, I guess, to their credit. But the amount of waste in a marketing campaign like that is insane, right? Where there's so much content showing up at his house every day, extremely expensive content, and it's just getting thrown away, yes. Right? And that's the thing that I really hope we can help our customers avoid, because this market is getting more competitive. There are more fiber providers than ever before, right? We just saw $43 billion get announced yesterday, roughly, from the White House for BEAD money and things like that. So there's more funding coming into this space. It's going to get more difficult. And so it isn't just a field of dreams, you build it and they will come scenario anymore, right? That is not.
I love that. I love that you said that. I love that you said that, Gabe.
It's just not, right?
I say that to many of my clients.
Yeah, we're seeing it get more difficult. So, that leads to, you have to be smarter with the investments that you're making and with the folks that you're targeting to drive into that funnel.
Yeah, and John,
if you want to be successful.
Yeah, and I just want to pull Jonathan to this because I think that it's a very important point. It's about using limited marketing dollars efficiently. Yes. I mean, Jonathan, I am sure you don't have Apple-like marketing spends of $500 million a month. I don't know what their number is, but it's a big number. And you have to optimize every single dollar that you spend. You have to know what the ROI is. So let's just talk about that for a minute or so.
Yeah, I mean, nail on the head, right? I mean, that's making sure that we're using our resources where they're most effective, and understanding what messages are, part of it's the medium, part of it's the message, and kind of always taking a step back and reviewing, okay, what's working, what's getting the clicks, what's not, which mailers are resulting in acquisition, which aren't. On the digital side, that's a little bit easier, right? You can kind of click through, track the click-through rates and stuff and things like that. Which images are working, which ones aren't, and so kind of just always taking a step back and saying, okay, well, how did that work? Okay, let's adjust. We just went through that process with, for instance, our next door campaigns. It's a relatively new medium. Might work in some neighborhoods, might not work in others, just based on use rate and the type of folks that are going on there. And so, okay, we're adjusting. We just went through and changed up the images, changed up the messaging, and let's see what happens now. So it's a constant kind of take a step back, reset type of mentality. What words are working, what call to actions are working, what images. Across the board, and so, but it's fun. Like that aspect is that's the cool part about marketing. So yeah.
Quan, any closing thoughts on this slide?
I'll just say easily, what data will enable broadband service providers do is deliver new experiences, and that's just the bottom line, right? Like it's, how can I understand enough information about you and they made the great points of less waste, right? Higher adoption rates, right? More responses, etc. But it's really, when you think about it, what JR is trying to do, he's trying to provide new experiences to those people he's going after. And data really helps to propel that and can help him fuel business growth.
Couldn't agree more. So, Jonathan, this is kind of your slide. What's happening? What's happening in Tustin, California? There's a lot of jokes I can make there, but this is really crucial because you are in the heart of Orange County. I'm in San Jose because you can see the Golden Gate Bridge, but you're in the heart of like Disneyland and all the fun stuff that goes on in Orange County. But let's talk about it. From your specific perspective at Cityside.
Yeah, what was interesting about our launch into Tustin was we work directly. Part of our approach, we focus on the experience for the customer. We also focus on the experience for the community kind of overall, and being good stewards and participants within the community. And part of that also is working in having a strong relationship with the city itself. And so part of what kind of drove our early to construction, prior to network launch approach was working with the city to get out in front of some street resurfacing that they had. And so the challenge we had from the marketing side of things was we were starting to build and putting our face out there to the community earlier than we would have wanted. We hadn't done the brand development, we weren't ready to start selling. And there are, there's a lot of stories or data out there that, if you're too early with your marketing, people start to, if they can't sign up, right, and they can't get the service, now they start to generate a negative impression of you. So it's a really delicate balance that we try to factor in, and that is part of our marketing action plan as well. Is okay, here's the date that we're starting construction, and then work backwards from there with a rollout plan. And so with our first zone, unfortunately, we had to kind of take a little bit of a different approach. And so it was a little bit of trying to walk a super fine line with being forward and introducing ourselves to the community, while also saying, we're not ready to kind of have you sign up just yet. And so that was a fun aspect to try to balance that. And so far, so good. Knock on wood. It's been relatively low activity in terms of any kind of issues or anything like that, by kind of putting ourselves out there and putting ourselves in between the city and the customers. There weren't any complaints about construction or anything like that. We had kind of cut that off. And actually, a lot of the questions that we've gotten, I thought there would be a lot more questions about, hey, what are these big trucks doing in front of my house? And in reality, a lot of people were just saying, hey, where can I sign up? And so that was a really great response for us, is that, there's a lot of interest here. There's a lot. I keep hearing this from everyone, is they just want a choice. They just want something a little bit different. Even if they don't switch over, I think people are just happy to have another option that's out there. And that's really exciting for us. And so yeah, we started to kind of, we went with the theme here of like, a summer marquee coming soon this summer, type of thing, to kind of get people excited, but also kind of manage expectations there. And that's a key component of our marketing strategy for this first zone, but also going forward, is to not be too early, but also put our name out there and start to get people interested, start to drive the brand awareness, so that when we are ready to sell, we've got, at least they've seen our name out and about, a handful of times prior to sign up.
Right. And what's the interesting thing is here, and I'll let you do kind of a little mini commercial in a second, is that you said something that was very interesting to me, is that, I'm an old product guy. And if you recall, at the beginning of the PC revolution, 20 years ago, there was a lot of PC companies that would announce products that were not ready for prime time. You had this whole vaporware concept. Well, that whole idea, and that scares people, by the way, because you really only have one chance with a customer. And if you let them down and you announce a product, or in your case, a service, and it's not ready to go, you probably won't get a second look from that customer. So let's talk about Cityside Fiber for a second with that kind of just kind of that thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been, one of our challenges, particularly in this first market within Tustin. But so far, so good. I feel like because we're local, and because we've kind of we're trying to like take the face off the corporation aspect, I guess, a little bit, and kind of like put a name to the face, I guess, is maybe a better way of putting that. Like we are local. We're stressing the fact that we are here. We are young, we're new, we're fresh, we're different. Trying to we put that brand out to the market. And I think the feedback that we're getting from folks, and it's reflected in our early signups as well, is that people are just happy to have us there, and are willing to, it seems, hopefully, are willing to kind of roll with us as we go. They understand that it's not easy. They understand that what we're doing is a challenge. It's going to take time, and they're happy to kind of support a local company to help them kind of do that. And I think that's driven by the fact that that it's a two-way street. Like, we're here to support the community. They're here to kind of support us. I hope that that's the relationship that we have. That might be projecting a little bit, but in reality, that is, we have gotten some feedback from folks directly, man on the street types, that have expressed as much. And so that's exciting. I think for us, we're happy to be establishing ourselves in Orange County. We are trying to do things differently, kind of across the board, not just from the product itself, which we know is superior to what's out there, but in terms of, to kind of bring this full circle, in terms of the experience that's being provided as well. And that includes, a more positive, friendly, open relationship with your service provider that you don't get from, an automatic call-in line, from Atlanta, right? Or, wherever Spectrum is now. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, just taking a little bit of a different approach and putting ourselves out there in the community in a way that is just different. People, I think, respect that. Yes, I hope so.
So again, now let's get into the marketing cloud portion here. I'm going to let Gabe jump into this in terms of the insights that we see typically, using a tool like Calix's marketing tool capability. So it's a bit of an eye chart. We're not going to go through this in detail, but I'll give you, a chance to take a swing at this. And then I'd like to have Kwanda comment on this as well in terms of the insights that, again, what's amazing is that these insights are available at a BSP's fingertips, which, to me is just a miracle of the internet and AI and all the other wonderful capabilities that we're starting to see today. But Gabe, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So you're spot on, right? It's really making them available at the BSP's fingertips. That to me is the huge part. As we've talked to customers who have gone out and acquired data about prospects in the past, one of the things that we've heard over and over again is how difficult it is to action that data. And we've spent a lot of time today talking about data. Data is great. Actionable data is really where we need to be, right? If it's just data, okay, great. Well, what am I going to do with that? I need to be able to action it quickly. And that is what I think we've developed with Calix Marketing Cloud that really is a huge value add for our broadband service provider partners, is delivering that actionable data so they can understand what are the income levels, what are the age ranges, what are the demographic and psychographic profiles of these specific groups, so I can create those very targeted campaigns and limit waste. JR mentioned direct mail campaigns earlier. Direct mail campaigns those can still be super effective. I've got no issue with direct mail. It can be a very effective marketing tactic, but it can also be extremely expensive and extremely wasteful. So if you're not leveraging actionable data to put relevant marketing campaigns in front of those prospects or existing subscribers, it can be very problematic, right? So what we've developed with this tool is a way to really take that data, make it actionable, and action those campaigns as quickly as you possibly can.
And Kwanda, what's really interesting, it's always been interesting to me about Calix's engagements with BSPs. That you're the typical BSP at Calix is, they're not humongous. I mean, they don't have marketing teams with 150 people. There's a whole corollary of capability piece to this that we're not really going to talk about in detail in terms of providing the tools and capabilities that, hey, I've got all the insights. Now, how do I use those insights and transfer them into actionable things that a BSP can do without a large staff, which I've always loved about what Calix is able to do. But let's get your perspective.
Yeah, I think, when we think about this and as we're helping our customers to really see the value of what Calix Marketing Cloud is, it's really building it for if you're a marketing team of 1 or if you're a marketing team of 5, right? Having this platform that can simplify how you go to market with some of your campaigns. But when I think about it, it's really, what is the end goal of the broadband marketer, right? It is either you're trying to go after and acquire new subscribers. How can you do that in a way, a very, precise manner where you can understand insights about the communities you want to go to and make sure you're marketing to them in a way that's engaging. And that brings me to my second point. It's not just, I want to send you something and sign up. That's a big part of it, but it's building relationships and engaging with people in a way it's different. It's having the broadband providers elevate the way they are connecting with subscribers so that they become, advocates for you, so that they're loyal to your brand in a way where they feel like, it's not just a box that I'm going to switch out for the next person that comes and offers me a lower price. I get that this other service provider has a lower price, but I have a relationship with my current provider. I engage with them in a way. They send me things that I connect, and they're providing, as we said earlier, those personalized bundles, those experiences. And I think that's just core to the insights you have. It's really helping you to up your level and how you engage with subscribers.
Right. Well, and what's interesting, you keep mentioning this over and over again, but I'd like to reiterate it, is that not all BSPs are the same. And that personalization and customization piece is so important because, you know, a Cityside fiber may have different priorities and different strategies, different types of subscribers than someone else that you're serving in Canada, for example, or another market that you're working in. But this is our last slide before we conclude the podcast. You know, boosting ROI with management services is the name of the game. You know, we did a podcast with you folks about Bark, which is a tremendous parental monitoring tool. I recommend to a lot of people, especially when you've got kids. It comes in very, very handy. But there's other tools as well. Gabe, from your perspective, anything you'd want to mention here in terms of those wonderful tools that you're providing in a managed manner that can help boost the ROI of a typical BSP?
Arlo's one I get really excited about. I personally have Arlo cameras in my home, and
right.
I love having that connectivity. I have a little office outside of my house, and the doorbell rings, and not having to run out to the door to check what's going on, and all of that is quite nice. Just being able to see that on my phone or on my watch, actually, and all of that. So that's a fantastic managed solution that our broadband service provider partners have brought to market. And what's really great about the data and insight that we can provide is we can tell you, hey, here's people who live in single family homes. Here's people who own those homes. Here's people who are over a certain income threshold that are likely going to buy these certain solutions. So you can really start to get targeted with the people that you're focused on for that type of managed solution for new prospects or existing subscribers, and really make sure that you're putting not marketing to somebody who lives in an apartment building, 3-camera setup. They're probably not going to be interested in buying that.
Right.
That's our Kwanda, when she's 20 AARP, marketing campaigns, right? So
that's an important point here because, again, I haven't seen your data, but my assumption would be that people who live in apartments or condos probably don't have the need for Arlo external cameras. That because again they're not monitoring outside of the property because that might be being done by their by the landlord of the building. But having those kind of data points, allow you to do a much better focused marketing job. To Kwanda's point about personalized and customized marketing. So Kwanda, let me give you a couple of minutes to opine on this.
Yeah, and I will say this, right? These are our being Calix. These are the managed services that our partners and broadband providers are able to offer through Calix. What I like about Marketing Cloud and just the insights that's provided there, you can still use those insights. And if you're a provider, and let's say you have something that's different that isn't the Calix managed service, you can use those insights and you can still use it to go after and talk to prospects, potential subscribers, current subscribers, etc., and use that data to then talk to them about that service that you offer that may fall outside of this, right? I do want to be mindful that, some service providers have other things and initiatives and services. So Gabe, while he spoke to that, I just wanted to say that you could use the insights in Marketing Cloud to really talk to people based on things that you're doing as a broadband provider within your business that's helping you to drive that revenue growth, right? And so this is just one example of how you can use it to grow that average revenue per subscriber. We see some of the BSPs we work with, sometimes they bundle some of these services in. Sometimes it's a upcharge, right? And it allows them to drive additional revenue, additional $4 per month, right? You multiply that by 10,000 subscribers, that is revenue growth. That's real dollars there. And so I just want to close. Again, it's about delivering those new experiences in a way that is personalized, that allows you to kind of increase the way you engage. So,
Jonathan, any closing thoughts?
Ditto. No, I mean that's it. The ability to part of the reason that we went with Calix, obviously, hardware is very solid, but it was it was, really the software side of things and the managed services side of things, and the ability to kind of connect and provide a different experience, including some of these managed services, and be able to present that as a different type of product that we're talking about. Like, so it's not just fiber that we're bringing. It's a different type of Wi-Fi internet experience that has the ability to kind of personalize and customize to your home and to your needs. And that's exciting to us. And as we grow, this was one of the key elements that we saw as a pretty cool element of the Marketing Cloud and the managed services overall. And hopefully more and more coming, at the Connections show. I'm expecting some exciting new announcements of additional managed services. So get on that, Gabe. But but this type of experience that that Calix presents was exciting for us to be able to present that to subscribers and be able to give people what they want, and that's great.
Well, you mentioned that magic word, Connections. More podcast activity to come on that in a little bit. So I want to thank all of you for your time. Let me just close on some closing thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to join me for today's podcast. For a viewing and listening audience, thanks for making the Smart Tech Check podcast part of your day or commute. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast, or use these on-screen QR codes to connect with me, get a little bit more information on Cityside Fiber. And you can also follow me on Twitter at MarkVinaTechGuy. And until next time, have a great week. And thanks to all of you participating in today's podcast.
Thank you.